We are proud to celebrate Independence Day, one of the oldest and most beloved traditions in Piedmont. Normally, there is a parade, party in the park, and many block parties. Unfortunately, this year, due to COVID-19 restrictions, we're celebrating in place and together online. Join us for memories from Piedmont residents and historic photos and videos as we celebrate the 4th of July and reflect back upon this wonderful Piedmont tradition.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the fair and the home of the brave?
Can you tell us your earliest memory of the Piedmont 4th of July parade and party?
So the first time I was in the parade, it was the first parade that there was, and my dad started the parade just to get neighborhoods together, get community together, and it was just an absolute ball to get together with I was probably 4 or 5, but we, everybody was excited when their dads came home from work because that evening we were going to eat hot dogs and build a float. It was just a blast.
And can you tell a little bit about why your father, Dick Johnson, decided to do this and the genesis of how we ended up with the 4th of July parade in Piedmont?
He was, I don't know if he was part of the rec commission at the time, but he definitely was the head of the rec commission at one point, and I think it was then. And he just thought it was a sleepy town on 4th of July and people were going to Tahoe, and he wanted to do something that brought the community together. A lot of people did not believe that it would be as successful as it was, and it was pretty successful immediately. And not as many people went to Tahoe years after. So
July is so much fun because you get treats and you don't have to. Well, of course you aren't going to school already, but this way you don't have to go to camp if you're in camp. And the grown-ups don't have to go to work, and you get to watch the parade and get to have breakfast. 4th of July is just so much fun.
The horse party.
Direct descendants, grandchildren as a matter of fact. And we may even have a couple of great and great-great-grandchildren there, but in the buggy, Sherry Pettit, and an old acquaintance of mine and my father's, Zoe Sutton. Here are the descendants of Hugh Craig. Rosamond Castle is going to be among them, but I'm not sure where she is. We'll know in a moment. She'll be inside the wagon. I don't think I'm surprised at that. Hi, Craig's and Assorted Castles and others. Do any of you still carry the name Craig? Super good. Rosamond, always good to see you.
In the beginning, we enjoyed being spectators of the parade. And then when Michael became, involved in the city government, we were able to participate and ride in the beautiful old cars. And then the last about 10 years for me, I've been on the 4th of July parade committee, and it's really been fun to work behind the scenes and help set up the, the parade.
My most distinct memories are actually of our
neighborhood block parties on the 4th of July. San Carlos Avenue has a history of block parties on not only on the 4th, but in December as well. And that's really a wonderful opportunity to meet with our neighbors and celebrate the holiday. I do recall my first time I actually marched in the parade was probably in the early 90s. I was serving on the board of the then Oakland SPCA, now East Bay SPCA. And we brought some of the dogs from the SPCA shelter up to Piedmont and walked them in the parade. And that was a lot of fun.
This little group of 8, 9, 10 people, and the ones that have gone beyond, the ones that have moved, have gathered together, and with the help of the city, make this happen every year. That's why I wanted everybody to participate in talking to you, because I can tell you what Roland does, but I can't express what he feels about it and what he does exactly.
When did you join the 4th of July committee, and what are your tasks on the committee? What are the jobs that you do?
What I do for the parade is, in the beginning, when I was in my 30s, I would help generate excitement amongst the younger people with younger kids to make the floats. I'd go around town passing out flyers. I had a speaker from my car saying, please make a float. And then as I got more senior, I guess, I now am really Carla's executive secretary. So I do all the admin work with her. And then the day of, I'm running around with Carla, helping her with the various things she does, which is a lot.
My role before the parade is I go to the meetings. We meet almost once a month for 4, 5, 6 months before the 4th of July. We pick the theme and we try to get as many people to participate as possible. But primarily, I am the one who lines up all of the entrants. And there's a certain logic. I mean, we always start with the motorcycle police and the fire department. In case there were an actual fire call during the parade, they could just take off at full speed and leave. There would be nobody ahead of them.
Thank you, people. And here come the real terrors, the bike cops. Those are the ones that can sneak up down on the field and all kinds of neat places. Thank you all. As I said, I'm sure the crowd has figured out by now you guys are in the front of the parade for more than just honor. They're here so they can pull out immediately if they get a call. So far, tap wood, they've never had to.
And then it's followed by the colors, flag.
Arm. Banner. Blue banner. Right shoulder arm. Honor guard. Wheel left. Forward. Mark.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all you do for the nation and all you've done for the nation.
And there's always a band, a New Orleans jazz band that goes next.
The parasol and the sash are absolutely mandatory parts of the tradition of a good New Orleans jazz band. The sash shows which organization or which lodge the leader belonged to. The umbrella would be covered with mystical symbols or just a simple colored parasol.
And then it's the Grand Marshal and the dignitaries. After that, it tends to vary, but someone needs to figure out who goes where. And I will say that over the years, not lately, but over the years, probably the most common complaint has been you have too many cars. Some people just don't want to see all these cars. And I will say that as the person who has to line everything up, I love all the cars because they're spacers. You cannot have one band immediately followed by another band, or you won't hear either one of the bands, or they'll drown each other out.
Our very own. These are Piedmont youth, originally brought in by Brick Johnson back in the 30s and went out in the 50s, 60s, and now we're back full strength in the year 2000. Well, I think what it was about 2003, 2004, you regrouped.
Then the day of the parade's always at 11 a.m. I am standing at the intersection where three streets come together and go down Highland. And I'm wearing a tuxedo and I've got a clipboard, and people do exactly what I tell them to do. The police do what I tell them to do. The fire department does what I tell them to do. Every parade entrant, because when I've got a clipboard, that makes me official. And people will pay attention to a guy standing out in the middle of the street with a clipboard wearing a tuxedo.
I did it because I thought it would be nice to have a lot more than just pre-16. It would be fun to have cars from the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and so on. And so I became official, and I was on the committee, and then contacted a lot more people with cars, and little by little built up about 60, a list of about 60 more cars. And then of course, over time, a few people either pass away or they sell their car when they figure they're getting too old or whatever. And so as I see other people with cars all year, I try to talk to them and see if I can put them on the list. So the list kind of stays current that way. And then during the parade, I usually drive one of my cars. A lot of times it's my 1913 Cadillac that I've had ever since 1978. And I usually drive one of the dignitaries probably in that. And I get in with the dignitaries and we go through the parade in the order. And then usually I have a big barbecue in my backyard for all the horseless carriages and a few of the other really early cars that are close to 1915.
For many years, classic cars and horseless carriages have been a part of the Piedmont 4th of July parade. We hope you enjoy a few moments from the annual procession of vintage automobiles.
Okay, you can take that stop sign down and move along now. Thank you.
In 2019, Beach School Crossing Guard Arthur Ward was honored for his service to the community. With a dignified doff of his cap and a hearty wave, Arthur was often the first face students saw before their school day began and one of the last they saw at the conclusion of their school day. He exuded kindness, acceptance, encouragement, and love.
So I sold my Hudson and got a 1913 Cadillac, which I still have to this day. And took quite a while to restore that. And then I got that Cadillac from Bud Lundell. He sold it to me. And he let me drive it in the 4th of July parade. And I'm guessing it was around 1974 or something, that particular one. That was the first one I ever went in. So that's why it's such a special memory for me.
That doesn't look like John Morrison. That looks like a happy retired guy. Hi, happy retired guy. John Morrison, who puts these together for us each year. 1913 Cadillac touring car. Walter Sowell, Andrew, Jamie, and Emily.
Most vivid and earliest memory is of the Bicentennial Parade in 1976. So my family moved to Piedmont in 1974. So this was, one of the first early parades for us, and our neighborhood organized a giant birthday cake float. So it was a 3-layer red, white, and blue cake on a big flatbed truck, and our whole neighborhood participated. And I was pretty young. I guess I was 7 or 8, but I really remember it, and remember really having a lot of fun participating in the designing and making and putting together of the float, and then also being able to ride in it, and just really a fun experience, a proud experience, an early participation experience for our family in Piedmont. And I think that's, one of the best things about our parade and tradition is that it's very inclusive, it's neighborhood oriented, and it makes people really feel connected to their neighbors and to our community. And that certainly happened for our family and for me. And that's my most vivid and early memory is the giant birthday cake.
One of the best parts of the parade are the floats. Some are made by neighborhoods, others join the parade from places unknown. All help make the Piedmont 4th of July Parade the great celebration it is. My favorite holiday of the entire year is Independence Day. And one of the reasons for that is the Piedmont 4th of July Parade. When I was a kid, I lived for a while on Jerome Avenue, and my block got together every year, and we had a great block party in the evening, the night of Independence Day, but we always got together the night before, and all the kids would decorate their bikes. We'd put streamers in the wheels, we would hang streamers off the handlebars, and we would ride our bikes in the 4th of July parade. And it was great. It was fun because there were so many people out in the audience and so many people watching, and it was all people, many people that we knew. And it was just a great, fun thing to participate in and celebrate the independence of our nation. It was a really cool thing.
Oh, I think it's classic Americana. I think Piedmont is a little bit of a small town, kind of isolated, really, surrounded by Oakland. Here we are in the Bay Area with, I don't know how many million people, but the 12,000 or so people that live in Piedmont, a lot of us know each other. There's stability. It's kind of a unique demographic based on economics. And I think that it kind of reminds me of what it might be like if I lived in some small town anywhere else in the country, I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest or East or whatever.
You can't have a parade without a few bands, whether it's the Piedmont Community Band, local jazz bands, or the bagpipe bands, which join us each year. Music is a large part of the celebration.
Going back to lead these intrepid musicians. And this year, the musicians have some guest musicians from Minneapolis. This is all because Gary Kringle and his daughter, Sarah invited her entire family to join in the fun. As always, the only requirement is to know the entire band's repertoire. On Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Victory March, and John Philip Sousa, the Thunderer. The band is directed by Ken Kawaichi, dressed as the famous, infamous San Francisco character, Emperor Norton. And finally, leading the band for the 33rd year is Piedmont's very own Majorette Elaine Lindenmayer. Thank you to all the wonderful musicians who helped make this day so special. Thank you.
We get everybody together, for a parade, irregardless of their success in life or their, station in life or everything else. People just come and recognize the parade for what it is and find it very enjoyable, and everybody just gets together and celebrates the parade and what it represents without any regard to any of that other element of it. And that's what I like about it. Just everybody getting together and celebrating and having a wonderful time in a good, kind of a wholesome, old-fashioned way. Like I said, it has that throwback quality to it. And, you go to the park and you buy a hot dog from the Boy Scouts and you listen to the music and you dance if you like. And you watch a lot of the same groups come by year after year, and then you have some new groups that entered and the cars and everything about it. But you always look forward to it. It's always fun. It's always interesting. You never tire of it. And I think that's the way most people who attend feel. And that's why they set their chairs out over a week in advance, so they make sure they have a good seat to watch that year after year after year after year.
You're city administrator now. You were the recreation director previously. Can you talk about how your involvement with the parade in those jobs and before that as well?
Sure, yeah, I think I've seen now the parade and the festivities from very different perspectives. So certainly as a young child, participating in that 200th birthday of our country, and then as a parent of young children, bringing my kids to the parade and trying to keep them safe from the candy wars, and also enjoying the candy wars. So as a parent of young kids, and then as the recreation director, all of a sudden being tasked with, to some degree, being in charge of this giant event, although I will say it is the volunteer committee clearly in charge of this event. Thank goodness. They've always had it so well in hand. I think it was one of the most impressive groups of people I interacted with in my 5 years as the recreation director. Was that committee and that group has that event and parade dialed in. So much effort over so many years. So just getting a glimpse behind the scenes of all that goes on to pull off that event was pretty fascinating for me. And really, I just was kind of along for the ride, so to speak. I got to kind of ride the 4th of July float of this committee and just provide resource or answer questions or make sure that other city departments were plugged in and ready to do what was needed. But really, this is a volunteer effort supported by city staff, not the other way around. And I think that's really unique and remarkable. But then also during that time, I got to participate in the parade. I think it was 2016. And it was the first time Piedmont had a pride entry in the parade. So that was a pretty amazing experience just to witness, but also to participate in.
I made myself sort of in charge of making sure the porta potties showed up. People are interested in having that kind of facility present at the parade, both at the start of the parade and at the end of the parade. And I made sure that that happened. If they weren't there by a certain time, I would call Cora, I would call the vendor direct, make sure that was done. My main job, the day of, has been for the past almost 25 years, I guess. I coordinate the Barrel House Jazz Band and the W.A. Rose truck. I call ahead of time and coordinate, ask W.A. Rose truck for the use of their truck, and then confirm with Barrel House Jazz Band, take possession of the truck a day or two ahead of time per their requirements, stick a rope around the truck to make sure it's safe for the musicians, store it in front of my house. The morning of, at 10:30, I deliver it to a certain place, generally speaking on Highland Avenue. The Barrel House Jazz Band gets on the truck and I drive it during the parade to the far end of the park.
47 years ago, a small group of musicians at the Montclair Presbyterian Church formed a traditional jazz band. They focused on the West Coast New Orleans style developed by Lou Waters. Spirituals were their initial focus, and after a few years, they went into traditional jazz from the 20s and 30s. Today, their music ranges from pre-1900s spirituals to the newer pieces, such as Cantina from Star Wars, Al Flood, Art Wood, Mark Jurek, Scott Wild, Bruce Strangeland, David Auerbach, and Jim Clifford.
My responsibility is the sign table. And we have the rec department makes these signs for all of the cars in the parade. And so they have to, there's 2 signs for each car for each side. And we have over 60 cars. And so we have all these signs printed out, ready to go. We divide them into groups, like the signs for the dignitaries, the miscellaneous signs, the horseless carriages, the cars from the 20s, the 30s, 40s, all the way up to the 70s. So we divided these into groups, and then the drivers come to our little table to collect their signs, and we check them off. And there are always some last minute changes and challenges because some of the old cars don't start the beginning in the morning, so they have to get a different car, and therefore the information on the sign has changed. Some of the drivers change. So fortunately, excuse me, we have some wonderful student volunteers, and we have them writing out, making new signs at the last minute for the changes in the cars.
Michael, what do you do on parade day?
I do a few things. I am in contact with some of the public agencies such as BART, AC Transit, the Oakland Zoo, and we encourage and invite them to participate in the parade each year. I also, on parade day, I deal with VIPs. I deal with the politicians, both from Piedmont and elsewhere. Some of the people who are being honored, we give out the corsages and the boutonnieres, and I just make sure everybody's situated, they can find their cars, they have a program, they have some water, and so on.
Tell us some highlights of, any highlights or great moments that you have seen through these many years of attending the parade.
A personal highlight, as I mentioned earlier, was being named as Grand Marshal. That was a real honor and a lot of fun. I would say also is just seeing the different floats, the different participants in the parade from year to year. There's some continuity certainly, but there's always something new and different. I particularly enjoyed having the tap dancing Christmas trees a number of years ago. I thought that brought a little bit different flavor to the parade. So I think that's the fun part.
We have another first-time entry. It is called California Repercussion, with musicians coming from Redding, Sacramento, Monterey, and of course Piedmont. They all began playing together years ago as part of the UC Aggie Band at UC Davis. I've only got one thing to say. Go Aggies! I love the matching shirts too. California Repercussion.
Carolyn?
Yeah, also, I love the neighborhood floats and seeing them over the years. I remember way back in the beginning, the final entry would be this huge float, sometimes I think it was even the White House, they were just magnificent. And also just seeing the excitement of the children and, catching the candy and seeing the dogs and just the whole community spirit has been a real highlight for me.
One of my favorite things is getting over to Highland Avenue early in the morning, helping to decorate the reviewing stand, helping to set up Carolyn's sign table, greeting people as they arrive at the parade. I think that's just a lot of fun.
I remember there was I don't remember her name, but she sang in the San Francisco Opera, and she sang the Star Spangled Banner to start the outdoor concert in the park there. And I remember her from the year before, and I remember saying to my mom and dad, I said, "You're in for a real treat here. This woman's going to sing the Star Spangled Banner, and she's going to bring it," and she did. And that was a wonderful treat. And then the group, and I remember looking at him, and I said to him, kind of in the middle of the show, I said, "You're looking at a lot of very, very successful people that are having a good time here."
It's exciting. It's a time where weeks before you get together with your neighbors and you start planning what you're going to do that day and what you're going to have in the parade. And then we always go to the park afterwards, which is a nice picnic with the family. And then we have a block party in the evening. So by the end, we're exhausted, but it's a big day. It's a great day.
So one of the interesting things that happens in Piedmont with the parade is residents and non-residents alike put out chairs sometimes a week in advance to secure their space to watch the parade. And in some ways, that's a wonderful thing because it shows the level of interest and the level of enthusiasm people have for this community event, which is probably the largest community event that Piedmont has, or one of the top two at least. And it's funny because depending on when in the week Independence Day falls, the chairs will go out a week, up to a week almost in advance. And it's just great to see everybody's enthusiasm.
There was a group, and they were in formation, like a formal marching band. But what they had were lawn chairs, very lightweight lawn chairs that have that nylon webbing. And they did a routine, and they clacked their chairs in unison when they opened them and closed them. They put them down, they sat in them, they got up, they walked around them, they walked, they clacked. They followed the instructions. It was hilarious.
And for many years, California Pinto Rangers, Shrine Horse Patrol would come with their beautiful horses and saddles and so forth. And it was interesting that in getting the Raiderettes, the balloon platoon would always want to be behind the Raiderettes. Now, I'll let you have your own conclusions about that, but it was fun to have the Raiderettes were beautiful ladies and did a wonderful job when they were able to come. Later on, that waned because they were in various, as you know, they were in various locations and not in Oakland all that time.
Fire! Bang! Fire! Bang! Ready, aim, fire! Bang! Right shoulder, drop.
57 mop salute.
I've done a lot of different things in the parade. I obviously rode my bike when I was a kid. My family had an old Thunderbird, and so one of the years I rode in that, they were celebrating older Piedmonters, so we put one of our neighbors, who I think was 80 or 90 years old at the time, and in the back of the Thunderbird and drove it down Highland Avenue. I remember, neighborhoods, they do this to a certain extent these days, but neighborhoods would come together and make really big floats. So I remember one year there was a huge White House. A neighborhood had built just a giant White House, and that went down the road in the parade. And it was great.
What's interesting to me is every year has highlights. Every year is a little different. And it's been interesting for me to see a little bit behind the scenes of how that happens. So how the committee comes together every year, comes up with a theme, does a lot of outreach to try to get different groups involved. But I think every year for me, the highlight are the neighborhood floats, which I hope in our return to in-person events next year, that we really find a way as a community to get some resurgence of those neighborhood floats. So I would say I don't have a single specific memory, John, but every year I look forward to the neighborhoods and the kids and the creativity that comes out of those neighborhoods to put on display their work and their effort and their camaraderie. And so I hope we really find a way to get back to more of those in the future.
What do you think the parade means to the city?
Well, I feel like it's there are several really nice things, but the parade is probably the very biggest one, and as far as drawing a lot of people from Piedmont to it. It's exciting to see so many really nice early cars. A lot of them are restored really nicely. They all run generally really well. So as far as for the city, I think because it's the biggest, it's at least one of the two biggest events that we tend to have. And I'm really happy to be part of it.
At the end of the parade, people kind of hop out into the street and follow the back of the parade down to the park. And there were these two people, one of whom was holding up a sign. It said, "Land of the free, home of the brave, Indigenous Holocaust, and home of the slaves." And while that's not what you would typically expect at a 4th of July celebration, not what you would expect at an Independence Day celebration, they were out there doing what Independence Day means. They were out there expressing their political opinions, and watching these people walk, they were treated with respect and understanding by everyone who, all the people who were celebrating around them treated them with respect, and they were able to do their silent protest in the way that they want to do it. That was a really heartening thing. That was a really great thing for me to see at the parade, because it was exactly what is important about the Piedmont 4th of July parade.
I really hope that the focus is, on maintaining sort of the uniqueness of it that is a result of the kind of old time traditional elements of it. And I think, it's fine to add and subtract attractions to the parade that, reflect the current times, but I don't want that to happen at the expense of just the traditional elements of it that make it special.
And here come women walking tall. Piedmont Council has brought down this fantastic 1920 KI case traction engine. Now, this was a steam engine that obviously did not need tracks. It went where it needed to go, where there was a heavy job to do. You should read the specs that they needed. What time did you guys get here this morning? About 4 a.m.? About 6? Just to get this head of steam up to do this. Thank you so much for coming in. That's a beautiful item. How fantastic.
Hello, Piedmont! Welcome to the big 4th of July show from San Francisco and Oakland, the ultimate party machine, Big Bang Beat!
Instead of having the parade and party in the park, we're now talking about residents celebrating in place. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you see residents sharing their spirit this year?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that, I hope we'll see people's creative spirits come out. We have a lot of creative people here in town. It's really hard to be home. We've all been home now. I think this is week 13. It's hard to imagine that that's where we are, or that we could do this, and yet we are. So yeah, I just hope to see a lot of different things. I hope to see people's creativity come out into their front yards and really show their own spirit coming out, whatever that is, to celebrate, find things to celebrate in this hard time. And I think that's, for me, maybe how I am approaching every day, trying to find things to appreciate, and then in a really visual way, as we approach what's typically a very celebratory day in our city, if we can find ways just in our own homes to take our quarantine, or those that we sheltered in place with, and figure out how we can display some celebration and gratitude despite the challenges that we find ourselves in right now.
I can't think of anything that doesn't stand out, John. I can't imagine this not being a part of my life, even if I get to the point where I'm sitting in the 90-year-old section watching the parade pass by. I'll be happy then too.
It's the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which recognized the right of women to vote. The Piedmont League of Women Voters created a video to celebrate this historic time.
Founded more than 70 years ago, the League of Women Voters of Piedmont has a long-standing tradition of marching in the Piedmont 4th of July parade. We wear white to commemorate our foremothers seen here marching for suffrage in New York City in 1915. and we carry signs meant to inspire improvements in our government and engagement of all citizens in the decisions that impact their lives. The National League of Women Voters celebrates its 100th anniversary this year, and locally we continue to bring virtual programs to our community during the pandemic, focusing on relevant topics such as food insecurity and police, justice, and racial inequities. And we look forward to carrying our messages and marching in many Piedmont 4th of July parades to come.
We put out a call for photos and videos of the Independence Day celebrations, and were overwhelmed by the response from Piedmonters. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for watching Celebrate in Place, a Piedmont 4th of July retrospective. Though we can't celebrate in person this year, we look forward to seeing you in Piedmont on July 4th for many years to come. On behalf of the City of Piedmont, we wish you a safe and healthy Independence Day.